remember not too long ago, I'd say late November, late fall, I should say 2024, right before the election. Remember we were told that President Trump, if he becomes president again, would become an embarrassment on the international stage? Despite all the successes he had with trade negotiations and work with diplomats throughout the world in his first term. Remember we were told that? Yeah, that turned out to be a bunch of crap. And you can tell those people to stuff it because he's done it again. And I don't care whether you voted for him or not. I don't care whether you like him or not. This was one of the most important diplomatic missions this country's ever seen. Sounds like hyperbole. I understand that. But what he did, first with Malaysia, but really overnight. And a lot of this stuff did happen overnight our time. The connection he just made with Japan's new prime minister and the trade deal, security deal, an international deal and he's just made with Japan, maybe in this day and age, our most important ally, was absolutely historic, and he wowed him. And this is where it goes to his showman aspect of that. To be able to bring that American presence with Japan is still fascinated with, and to do that but show the amount of respect because he was such a big fan of Shinzo Abe, the previous prime minister who passed away. To show that to the new prime minister made a massive impact with Japan. It was huge. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to see a lot of that in our mainstream media outlets today because they're just going to say that. They'll just ignore it because it was a success, right? Yeah, of course. Well, we'll talk about that as well as, oh boy, the next mayor of New York City, the jihadist, Mamdani, caught in a massive lie. Remember that story about his aunt that was, the victim of Islamophobia after 9/11? Yeah, that turned out to be completely not true. Will it matter? Probably not. But this matters. The exodus out of New York and to Florida has already begun. But it's okay. You can take advantage of that no matter where you live. We'll talk about all this stuff. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Wicked Radio live stream becomes the Wicked Radio podcast, audio and replay everywhere you like to find it after this. So thanks for being here. Appreciate you as always. Let's get right to it. This was the most amazing entrance I've ever seen a president make. And I mean that. So President Trump on his Asia tour went to Malaysia first. They loved him there. And then he goes to Japan. And now he was aboard and doing a lot of this work aboard the USS George Washington. And it's an aircraft carrier. And this is him, and I'll describe it for you audio-only listeners. He came on board to greet the sailors on one of the aircraft lifts, and it was lowered down as they saw it. This was like a rock act coming down. This is the beginning of it, and I'll describe it after as we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, as he's standing alone between two fighter jets and then is revealed and then walks towards the sailors. Well, that was another thing. Remember we were told not too long ago when Pete Hegseth told all those generals that he was fat, and the media turned this into some kind of a story where the military hates Trump and he's bad to veterans, and well, this is going to shock you, but that turned out to be a fake story as well, because the reception he got aboard that aircraft carrier was incredible. But talk about receptions now. This one's a little long, but I think it's important because this one, I think, kind of summarizes and captures the entire moment. First of all, his relationship with the new prime minister. Her name is Takaichi. More on her in a second because that's important as well. This is addressing the troops and introducing her and bringing her to the stage. Long, but you got to check out the reception.
But we're also very honored to be joined by hundreds of our incredible Japanese partners, and they are incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you. This woman, this woman is a winner. So, we've become very close friends all of a sudden because their stock market today and our stock market today hit an all-time high. That means we're doing something right. But the cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world. Really, there's never been anything like it. Born out of the ashes of a terrible war, our bond has grown over 8 decades into the beautiful friendship that we have. It's a foundation of peace and security in the Pacific. You see it? So on behalf of all American sailors stationed in this beautiful country, let's hear it for our allies and the Japanese self-defense forces and all of the Japanese people that we love and respect. And I have such respect for Japan and the country. And now I have a really great respect for the new and incredible Prime Minister. And I have to say this, the first female Prime Minister in the history of Japan. Madam Prime Minister.
That was long. I'm sorry, apologize, but I will be completely, totally transparent with you. I was kind of captivated by that. I really was. Mostly by her reaction. Now, what did Trump, first of all, let's get to the deal here. What did he accomplish in Japan? Is this just to get, a pair of golf clubs to be, have all the flowers thrown at him? No. Trade deal secured, security deal, information deal, tech deal, all of this secured with what is now, I really believe, is our most important ally. And look at the reception that she got from the American troops. And the Japanese troops were there as well, by the way. And it was a big response. First of all, you should look at that and say, yeah, everything I was told from our mainstream media in the States about the military not welcoming this guy, about him being an embarrassment on the international stage, don't ever listen to them again, because they're flat out lying. And this was such a success, you're not going to see a lot about this trip. You're just not, because it was such a success, but it was so important. But they don't matter. Our ridiculous, corrupt, compromised U.S. media sources really don't matter anymore. We're the media now, and you got to get to the truth through things like this. Let's talk about her for a second. Prime Minister Takaichi. You heard President Trump say the first female prime minister in Japan's history. That's a massive accomplishment right there. She's something else, man. And if you haven't paid attention to this, first of all, she's very accomplished. She's a rocker. And you're saying, what do you mean by that? She was in a band. She's a drummer. She's a self-described metalhead. Now, I don't know about you, but this has been my personal experience in life. I don't know. You have your own life journey. This is what I've found. People that are into rock are way more trustworthy. She literally rocks. It's fantastic. But of course, how is that played in the internet? The globalist media, how do they portray that? Because she is what's considered Japan first, right? Kind of like America first. Although their slogan over there, and they have the hats and everything, and they gave one to President Trump and some of the troops, their slogan is this: Japan is back. That's their slogan. But because of that, how is she portrayed? Take one guess how she's portrayed in the globalist media. Take one guess, because it's just like ours. She's also a fascist. There you go. But who believes that anymore? Who buys that crap anymore? It's like the 2-movie screen deal that Scott Adams always talks about. There's what we see, what we experience, and what we understand, and then what the media tells us. This is how you know they're lying. It's a completely different story they're telling. And this relationship between the Japan and the U.S. is so important these days with all this so-called international turmoil. To have them on our side economically, financially, and security-wise, this is massive. It's a huge deal that this partnership has been strengthened. And how is it strengthened as well? This ties into sports, believe it or not. And don't ever discount that connection. So as they had a great day together, they had the appearances together, big trade deal between the two trade partners. And this wasn't just Trump. It was the whole American, administration contingency over there to work all this stuff out. Then apparently last night, their time, our time, Trump and Prime Minister Takaichi were watching the World Series together. Now, why is that important especially? Well, Japan has always loved American baseball, always. That's always been one of the first connections that dug them out of the doldrums after World War II and got them into Western culture. That was massively important. But especially so these days because of somebody we were talking about last week. I was talking about Shohei Ohtani, Japanese-American superstar for the Dodgers. Well, he had another epic night last night as they're watching it live, so they were all excited about this. Massive ratings watching this over in Japan. What kind of a game did he have after setting a record in the National League Championship Series? Well, last night in Game 3, which was record-setting, by the way, he had 2 home runs, broke a World Series record getting on base 9 times. Oh, and by the way, he's the starting pitcher for Game 4, which is happening later on today. Later on today matters because there was a little bit of sports here. This was an epic game they were watching together. I don't know whether Trump and Takaichi were watching this whole thing, all 18 innings. It was the second longest World Series game in history. Finally ended last night.
Los Angeles. Freeman sends a fly ball to center field. Varsho's going back before the clock strikes midnight. Freddie Freeman has ended it. It's a repeat hero with the
Only the second longest World Series game in history. It was 7 hours and almost 7 hours. It actually, Dodgers and the Red Sox in 2018 was 7 hours and 20 minutes. So this was almost there, but there they were. Everything's coming up Japan these days. Shohei Ohtani's team going up 2-1 in the World Series. All right, back in the United States with all this silliness and everything happening in New York, and everybody's in an uproar, and the media is covering for the jihadist next mayor of New York City. Well, as you can well imagine, the mainstream media didn't discover this. That's right. Independent journalists did. You know how Elon always says we are the media now? Well, look at this. For a little bit of a flashback, this happened over the weekend, and people questioned it right away. You might have seen this, maybe not, I don't know. But Zoran, the moron, Mamdani, told a tall tale about his aunt facing Islamophobia. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and how the real victims of 9/11 were the Muslim Americans who faced this backlash. Yeah, not the people killed in the planes or in the towers, but it was the victims of Islamophobia, according to him. Just for a flashback, and I'll have the correction here in a second, this is what he said over the weekend that first caused the backlash. Count all the red flags in this
I want to
one.
use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Because she didn't feel safe in her hijab. And he pauses for the emotion, pretends to cry. Oh, it was so bad because the real victims were victims of this so-called Islamophobia after 9/11. Right. Well, people looked into this. No. Not the mainstream networks. No. They didn't do any work on this. Other people looked into this. They looked into the background because it wasn't tough to find. This aunt of yours, really? Did that really happen? Were there any documented cases of this? Do we even know the aunt was here? Well, as it turns out, it's not really his aunt. It's father's cousin's second something. Well, whatever. But that's okay. I mean, I've got people I call nephews that aren't technically nephews. They're second cousins, but whatever. That happens in families. Here's the real problem. This person he's speaking of wasn't in the country at the time. So he was found out. And because he's still running and the election technically didn't happen yet, he has to clear that up. Audio's a little low, so crank this up some. And again, watch for the spin here. Watch what he does. What a professional politician. What they all do, what he does here. You see, it's not that he was wrong. It's not that he was caught in a lie. It's the takeaway is wrong. We're focusing on the wrong things, everybody. You got it?
I was speaking about my aunt. I was speaking about Zerafui, my father's cousin, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo and his inability to reckon.
Oh, okay. So that's what it is. It's not that he lied about this person that wasn't in the country at the time. It wasn't his aunt. It was the father's cousins. So that's not it. It's his political opponent. But moreover, what he's really getting at, but couldn't quite say it yet. They will soon, but they couldn't quite say it yet. Who's really at fault here is you. It's your fault. And my fault, everybody. You got that? It's our fault for calling him out on that, for calling him out about a complete and total line of BS about his so-called aunt and the real victims of Islamophobia. Because that's what it is. That you're not supposed to be able to call it out. Because that's why he did that speech in the first place over the weekend. That's why he came out with that big whopper of a lie. They set the seeds is what they do. Because you're not allowed, if you criticize him particularly in any way of his policies, of his background, of his past rhetoric, of the violence he advocates, all of that stuff, it's not his fault. It's your fault for being Islamophobic. See how this all works? This is what they do. They set up this magic shield. Like any of the magic shields, like any of the words, like any of the name calling, all of it. You criticize a black politician, you're a racist. If you are against men competing against women in sports, you're a transphobe. Get it? Right? You don't like Pride Month too much, you're a homophobe, or you're a racist, or you're this and that. It's non-stop with this, which is why they do it all the time, which is the name calling was so effective in the past, but not anymore. And this is the big takeaway. This is great. The name calling, they used it so much. They went to the well so often with the name calling, it has zero impact anymore. And it works in your personal life too. Somebody's throwing something at you because you happen to disagree with on facts, but they start with the name calling right away. Then you're the worst person because they have this moral higher ground. Pfft, laugh at it. I mean, literally, that's the best way to approach somebody and deal with somebody like that starts with the name calling. Remember this expression that's gone out of our culture? Remember when you were a kid, you were always told by your parents when you were upset about somebody picking on you, sticks and stones. Sticks and stones. They break my bones. Names will never hurt me. Somehow we lost that. And you know why? Because in the education system, they started teaching people that words are weapons. Words are weapons. It's the most important thing you can call somebody. Your worst thing you can be, the worst thing you can be is any of the names you can be called. No, not anymore. It was for a while, very effective for a while, because it had a massive impact in American culture. That was the weapon. That was the power of woke culture. That doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Are you afraid of being called any of these names anymore? Anymore? When you know it's crap? No, absolutely not. You simply look into this guy's background to see what kind of person he really is, and he calls you an Islamophobe? Who the hell cares? Nobody cares about the name calling anymore because it's lost its effectiveness. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. Roll right off your back. In fact, go a step further and somebody says this to you and laugh it off. You're like, that's not true. That's ridiculous. The words aren't weapons anymore. The name calling doesn't work anymore because nobody cares. Completely exposed there. But will it matter? Probably not. Probably not. By the way, as you know exactly where I'm going with this, the target of my ire. Have all the networks caught him on this lie? Have they exposed it? Have they played for you what I just played for you? No, of course not. They're covering for the guy. But whatever. It is what it is. But does it have a real-world effect and a real-world consequence right away? And this specifically is about the exodus out of New York. Not the people who are stuck there, the hard, working-class people that are... And I'm telling you, it was just 2 months ago I talked to a lot of them in New York. At diners, a couple of bars, people in mass transit, just normal people when I was just up there recently. Can they leave? No. And I can't tell you the amount of people I talk to, New Yorkers. And you have to go to those kinds of places to talk to them, real people, in diners and restaurants and whatever, in casual conversation. Everyone I talked to knew this guy's coming in, that they're convinced he's going to be elected, and they wish they could leave. But that's expensive, and they have businesses, and they have homes, and they have families back in the city, so they're stuck with it, and they're going to try to ride it out as best they can, and they're in fear. But that's a different situation compared to the upper class, the 1%ers of New York. The investment bankers, the developers, people who can afford to get out of there are getting out of there. None of this should surprise anybody. Where are they going? Turns out they're going to Palm Beach.
It sounds like it is. Good afternoon, Sandra. Realtors in this exclusive area say there's a new sense of urgency for wealthy New York buyers. These are families, empty nesters, looking to buy a home like this and gain residency. So some New Yorkers are taking a closer look at Florida's no state income tax, especially as a potential tax hike looms, raising taxes.
Here they come. But you can't do anything about that. It's just the nature of it. I mean, I wish they were doing a census next year because the whole entire makeup of the country, the whole population makeup has completely changed. Yeah, after COVID, but also after things like this. There's a lot of people, the rich people so far, are leaving New York City because they can. They come into states like, Florida's not the only one. North Carolina, Texas will get a lot of them too. Tennessee will get a ton. It's kind of like people leaving California or going to Arizona and Texas. The population shift is happening right now, and what we're seeing in numbers isn't reflective of what's actually happening. But how do you take advantage of it? Well, from my fellow Floridians, it's good for our property values. I'll say that much. Big takeaway, don't buy what they're trying to tell you. They're working right now in newsrooms across the country. They're coming up with formulas. They're coming up with words. They're putting it into AI things. Help me somehow write a headline about Trump being bad in Japan. And they can't so far, so you're not going to see a lot about it. And the second takeaway is, with this Mamdani story, it's a great lesson for all of us. Don't even worry about the name calling anymore. You dare criticize this guy. They're setting the stage and they're planting the seeds right now to call you an Islamophobe. And it doesn't matter because they use that term so much now for you simply disagreeing with somebody. Let it roll right off your back and laugh at it because it doesn't matter. Thanks for finding me. Appreciate you. All right. Live stream becomes the podcast, all platforms, and you audio podcast listeners, wherever you'd like to download this as well. Make sure you subscribe. And on Spotify, you have to press like. And then on the replay on Facebook, like and follow there as well. And on YouTube. Appreciate you so much. It's only Tuesday, but make it a wicked awesome one. I'll talk to you tomorrow.